आपके बिल्स देख के समझ लेते हैं कि कौन सा सामान कितना बिका है।
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News9, English news as it should be.
Very good morning. You're watching News9. I'm Karthik Malhotra, and a lot has been talked about free trade agreements and comprehensive economic partnership agreements through the year. We'll tell you the latest on the India-Oman ties on the show this morning. And also, silver is once again on a hot rally. The precious metal is now at 2,07,000 rupees per kg. We'll tell you all that and more on this edition of Morning Brief at 9. This is Morning Brief at 9. First up, let's bring you all the headlines we're tracking for you this Friday morning. India and Oman sign landmark free trade agreement as Prime Minister Modi, Sultan Haitham push strategic partnership to new high. Prime Minister Modi conferred with Oman's highest civilian honor for strengthening bilateral ties and as India and Oman relations mark 70 years. Silver extends record rally to hit fresh lifetime high of 2,07,000 rupees per kg as strong demand and supply crunch lift prices. Dense fog disrupts Delhi airport operations as Cat 3 conditions trigger flight delays and cancellations across airlines. United States clears its largest ever weapons sale worth $11 billion to Taiwan, bolstering the island's defenses as military pressure from China intensifies across the Taiwan Strait. US President Donald Trump says America will send astronauts back to the moon as soon as possible, putting longer-term Mars missions on the back burner, at least for now. TikTok signs a joint venture agreement with investors to keep the social media app operating in the United States and avert a ban linked to its Chinese ownership. European leaders failed to reach agreement on tapping frozen Russian assets to fund Ukraine, instead shifting towards offering Kyiv a loan backed by the EU's common budget. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Kyiv faces a $53 to $59 billion funding gap and may be forced to slash drone production if Russia asset-backed loans don't arrive by spring. India and Oman have taken a major step towards their relationship and strengthening it, signing a landmark free trade agreement as Prime Minister Narendra Modi held talks with Sultan Haitham bin Tariq in Muscat. Prime Minister Modi, who arrived in Oman on Wednesday on the final leg of his three-nation tour, was welcomed by the Sultan at the palace before the bilateral meeting. The talks focused on deepening the India-Oman strategic partnership across a wide spectrum, from defense and security to trade, energy, technology, agriculture, and people-to-people ties. Both leaders also marked a significant milestone, 70 years of diplomatic relations between India and Oman, and described the newly signed Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement as a turning point in bilateral ties. The CEPA was signed by Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and Oman's Commerce Minister Qais bin Mohammed. It is expected to boost trade, investment and supply chain resilience at a time of global economic realignment. Notably, this is Oman's first free trade agreement in nearly 2 decades and only its second with an individual country. Remember, the deal will give duty-free access to nearly 98% of Indian exports to Oman, including textiles, agriculture and leather goods. In return, India will reduce tariffs on key Omani products such as dates, marbles and petrochemicals. The agreement is expected to come into force in the first quarter of next year. Officials say the pact will drive trade growth, create jobs and provide opportunities across sectors, even as India faces high tariffs in markets like the United States. Prime Minister Modi was conferred Oman's highest civilian honor, the First Class of the Order of Oman, his 29th international honor. The Prime Minister dedicated the award to the centuries-old friendship between India and Oman.
I think it is a very important deal. I think it is one which will give our exporters and manufacturers a lot of opportunity. It is also in line with what we have already started with the UAE. And slowly, I think we should look at a comprehensive agreement with the GCC on the whole. Like we are attempting to do with the European Union. We already have a FTA with ASEAN, and we are looking also, and we already have an FTA with the FTA countries. So that is an honor not only for Prime Minister Modi, but for every Indian national. It is a matter of great pride and satisfaction that our Prime Minister is being honored, and with his being honored, India's status and place in the world is clearly increasing, and the sort of respect that we're getting is a reflection of our policies and our success and our outreach to these countries. After all, India is the first responder and a net security provider to countries across the Indian Ocean region. And I think when we talk about the Indo-Pacific, Ethiopia is also a part of the Indo-Pacific. And I think it has to be seen in that context that these countries feel that we have been responsive to their needs, to the needs of the global south, and they are reciprocating in that regard.
Meanwhile, India's gems and jewelry sector is all set for a major export boost following this newly signed India-Oman Free Trade Agreement. Industry body Gems and Jewelry Export Promotion Council says the pact could push jewelry exports to Oman from the current $35 million to nearly $150 million over the next 3 years. The India-Oman SEPA offers zero-duty access, sharply improving price competitiveness for Indian exporters and encouraging direct sourcing. Industry leaders say this will drive strong growth in polished diamonds and gold jewelry, while also opening opportunities in silver, platinum and imitation jewelry. Now, India is already Oman's largest supplier of gold jewelry, especially the 22-carat wedding designs, with exports surging over 80% in the last financial year. With Oman's strategic location, the deal could also make it a gateway for Indian jewelry exports to the wider GCC market as well as markets in Africa. The Indian rupee rose 18 paisa on Thursday to close at 90 rupees 20 paisa against the US dollar despite global dollar strength. Now, traders say the recovery was largely driven by suspected intervention by the Reserve Bank of India, which reportedly sold dollars to check sharp volatility in the Indian currency. The rupee opened weaker at 90 rupees and 35 paisa but recovered strongly to an intraday high of 90.04 before ending the session higher. Lower crude oil prices, with Brent hovering near the $59 a barrel mark, also supported the domestic currency, though gains were capped by a stronger dollar index and weak equity markets in India. Analysts caution that the rupee may face pressure from foreign fund outflows and delays in an India-US trade deal. Meanwhile, government advisor Sanjeev Sanyal said there is no cause for concern, noting that exchange rate weakness is common during high growth phases and that the RBI actively steps in to manage excessive volatility. And moving in the opposite direction of the Indian rupee seems to be the white metal silver. Silver continued its record-breaking rally for a second straight session on Thursday, surging 1,800 rupees to a fresh all-time high of 2,07,600 rupees per kg in the national capital. This driven by strong demand, buying interest from traders. A day earlier, silver had jumped over 7,300 rupees to cross the 2 lakh rupee mark for the very first time. So far this year, silver prices have skyrocketed by nearly 130%, rising more than 1.17 lakh per kg since Jan, reflecting tight supply conditions and robust demand. In contrast, gold prices in the domestic market remain flat while international gold edged lower despite staying close to record highs. Analysts say silver's sharp rally is being driven by strong industrial demand from sectors such as solar energy, electric vehicles and data centers, along with a persistent global supply deficit that could keep prices elevated even into the next year. Well, Delhi Airport issued an advisory this morning, and as of 8 a.m., it warned of disruptions due to dense fog, with flight operations currently being handled under the Cat 3 conditions. Low visibility has led to delays and cancellations of flights, and passengers have been advised to check directly with their airlines for real-time updates. Airport authorities say staff are coordinating across terminals to assist travelers. Air India has also issued a travel advisory cautioning that dense fog over Delhi and parts of North and East India could be impacted, and these could impact flight schedules with ripple effects across the network. Air India says ground staff are available round the clock, and its Fog Care initiative allows eligible passengers to reschedule flights or seek full refunds without penalty. Meanwhile, market leader Indigo too warned of early morning delays, calling fog a seasonal challenge. As per officials, 27 flights were cancelled at Delhi Airport on Thursday, while Indigo cancelled 59 domestic flights as airlines deploy Cat 3 trained pilots and aircraft to manage operations safely in low visibility. And shares of e-commerce firm Meesho continue to see strong investor demand, surging more than 112% from the issue price since their market debut on December 10th. Now, the stock has gained over 42% in just the last 4 trading sessions on the BSE. On Thursday alone, Meesho shares jumped nearly 9% to close at 235 rupees and 50 paisa, coming on the back of a sharp 20% rally in the previous session. From its IPO price of just 111 rupees per share, the stock has more than doubled in less than 2 weeks. Meesho's blockbuster listing followed a heavily oversubscribed IPO, which was subscribed nearly 97 times. In fact, I beg your pardon, 79 times. The 5,421 crore rupee issue had a price band of 105 to 111 rupees per share, and the company now commands a market valuation of over 1 lakh crore rupees. And with that, we will slip into a very short break. A lot more to come on the other side. Keep watching News9.
ये बेस्ट है सर।
हमेशा वाला क्यों नहीं?
मिश्रा जी, आपके लिए फूलों की बरसात, बिरला ओपस एश्योरेंस देने के लिए।
मतलब प्रोडक्ट वारंटी?
ये एक्स्ट्रा है। 1 साल में पेंट को कुछ भी हुआ तो पेंटिंग वापस करके देंगे।
वापस करके देंगे?
वो भी फ्री। पेंटिंग में पहली बार बिरला ओपस एश्योरेंस। रजिस्टर करो birlaopus.com पर।
लाइफ जब भी आगे बढ़ने का मौका दे तो अपनी सुपर पावर, अपना गोल्ड यूज करिए और IIFL फाइनेंस से गोल्ड लोन लीजिए।
IIFL फाइनेंस करता है सीधी बात।
Okay, 2026, take notes. Manifesting. More bubbles, less troubles. For my little Miss Sunshine, tickles and giggles. Also wanna be a biker chick this time. And dear 2026, only love for my people and myself. To manifest my best life, nature's cosmic energy. Now mine, natural diamond intention pendants.
हर स्वाद में बसा, हर दाद में बसा, ये मेरा चीज है।
50 सालों से जो बना इस देश की शान, वो है अमूल चीज।
सामने नया सुपरमार्केट खुलने वाला है। क्या करूं कि पुराने कस्टमर भी रहें और नए भी आ जाएं?
देखो, आप दुकान के बाहर एक चाय कॉर्नर लगा सकते हो। चाय पीते पीते पुराने कस्टमर बातचीत करेंगे, उन्हें देखकर नए कस्टमर भी आएंगे और एक्स्ट्रा कमाई भी होगी। इसके अलावा आपके बिल्स देख के समझ लेते हैं कि कौन सा सामान कितना बिका है।
Our honorary speaker, Megha Vishwanath, the quintessential storyteller, weaving narratives defining global economy, her book Unseen chronicles the journey of Zomato's Dipinder Goyal. Eastern India's first business and economy literature festival 2025, 20th and 21st December, Taj Tal Kutir, Kolkata.
Presented by EIILM Kolkata. Associate sponsor Bama Lorry, Mukhorochuk, Alliance Broadband, Priyogopal Bishoi, and ChatGPT.
Welcome back. You're watching News9. This is Morning Brief at 9. Let's shift focus now to stories from around the world. First up, the United States. US President Donald Trump says he has interviewed Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller as a possible successor to Fed Chair Jerome Powell, praising him as great. Now, Trump said 3 or 4 finalists remain in the race, with Michelle Bowman, Kevin Hassett and Kevin Walsh also in consideration.
People are you interviewing for the Fed chairman, and what did you think of Chris Waller?
I think he's great. I mean, he's been a man who's been there a long time, somebody that I was very involved with in the sense of his career, and he's a fantastic man. I met him yesterday. Again, we're talking to 3 or 4. I think every one of them would be a good choice, honestly. We'll be making a decision pretty soon.
Well, the US president also says he is considering declaring a national emergency over housing as affordability concerns deepen all over America. Trump said he wants to protect existing homeowners while making it easier for new buyers to enter the housing market. Listen in.
Still considering a national emergency over housing?
I'm looking at it.
What would that look like? What would that mobilize?
You know, there's 2 thoughts on housing. You have a lot of people have housing that because we have such a strong time and such a strong market, their houses are very valuable. It's a big part of their net worth, their house. I don't want to knock those numbers down because I want them to continue to have a big value for their house. At the same time, I want to make it possible for young people out there and other people to buy housing.
Well, U.S. consumer prices rose less than expected in the month of November, easing inflation worries. But economists warn the moderation may only be temporary, with tariffs and living costs still squeezing household budgets.
U.S. consumer prices increased less than expected, according to a report from the Labor Department Thursday. Its consumer price index rose 2.7% from a year earlier in November, well below the 3.1% forecast of economists polled by Reuters. The moderation is likely due to technical reasons related to the record-long government shutdown, which prevented the collection of some data. The government also canceled its report on consumer prices for October due to the shutdown. The timing of the data collection for the November report may have led to a lower reading as well. It occurred later in the month, when retailers offered holiday season discounts. Economists expect an acceleration in prices in December. President Donald Trump's sweeping import duties have raised prices for many goods. However, the tariff pass-through has been gradual as businesses work through inventory accumulated prior to the trade policy tightening and also absorbed some of the taxes.
I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it.
Trump, who won the 2024 presidential election on promises to tame inflation, has in recent weeks alternated between dismissing affordability problems as a hoax, blaming former President Joe Biden, and promising that Americans will benefit from his economic policies next year.
And the United States has approved its largest ever arms sale to Taiwan, worth $11.1 billion, as China ramps up military pressure on the island nation. The package includes missile systems, drones and artillery, pending congressional approval. Now, Taiwan has ramped up its defense spending in the past decade, but Donald Trump's administration has pushed the island to do more to protect itself as China ramps up its military and diplomatic pressure against Taipei. whose government rejects Beijing's sovereignty claims. Now, in a series of separate statements announcing details of the weapons deal, the Pentagon said the arms sales serve U.S. national economic and security interests by supporting Taiwan's continuing efforts to modernize its armed forces and to maintain a credible defensive capability. With that, let's shift focus to Wall Street, that closed higher as softer U.S. inflation data reinforced expectations of Federal Reserve rate cuts, while Micron's upbeat forecast pointed to strong demand driven by artificial intelligence. Take a look.
Wall Street's main indexes climbed on Thursday, with the Dow edging up marginally, the S&P 500 adding 0.8%, and the Nasdaq advancing about 1.4%. A soft inflation report fueled expectations for more interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. The Consumer Price Index report showed that consumer prices increased less than expected from a year earlier in November. The moderation is likely due to technical reasons related to the government shutdown, which prevented the collection of some data. Meanwhile, a blowout forecast from chipmaker Micron Technology helped lift tech stocks on Thursday. Micron shares jumped 10% after the company forecast quarterly profit at nearly double what analysts were expecting on strong AI demand. It comes as massive debt-backed AI spending and unclear paths to profits have dampened risk-taking this quarter. But Rob Slimer, technical strategist with RBC Wealth Management, says he thinks AI-related stocks will continue to rise.
So I think people are a little bit more nervous around some of the gains in these high momentum, expensive technology stocks. And I think that's why we've seen some volatility in some of the names, some of the data center stocks and software names that have pulled back very, very sharply. People are taking some of that risk down. Now, again, this is just the first pullback in an otherwise strong uptrend. I think it's pretty early to be making a case that these tech stocks are putting in a big top.
Other stocks on the move included Trump Media and Technology, which surged roughly 42% after the company announced a merger with fusion power firm TAE Technologies in an all-stock deal valued at more than $6 billion.
And short video social media platform TikTok's Chinese parent ByteDance has signed binding agreements to sell more than 80% of the social media's application's U.S. assets to American and global investors in a move aimed at avoiding a U.S. government ban. According to reports, the U.S. joint venture will be 50% held by a consortium of new investors, including Oracle, Silver Lake, and MGX, with 15% each. 30% held by affiliates of certain existing investors of ByteDance, and only 19.9% of the total stock will be retained by ByteDance. Now, TikTok CEO Shouzi Chu told employees the deal brings the app closer to resolving years of uncertainty over its future in the United States, where it has more than 170 million users. The agreement follows a plan unveiled earlier this year that met U.S. disinvestment requirements. The deal, set to close on Jan 22nd, would end years of efforts to force ByteDance to divest in the United States business over national security concerns raised by successive U.S. administrations. And shifting focus to Europe now, European Union leaders have agreed on a 90 billion euro loan to support Ukraine, but have failed to reach consensus on using frozen Russian assets for Kyiv. Now, Belgium's concerns over legal risks stalled the plan. The EU agreement, which came after more than a day of talks at a summit in Brussels, offers Kyiv a desperately needed lifeline as US President Donald Trump pushes for a quick deal to end Russia's war. The EU estimates Ukraine needs an extra $135 billion, that's equivalent to almost $160 billion, to stay afloat over the next 2 years, with the cash crunch set to start in April. While Kyiv may be left disappointed that the EU did not take the leap to use Russian assets, securing financing another way still may be a relief for the war-torn country. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned that Kyiv may have to sharply cut drone production if funding from loans backed by Russian assets does not arrive by spring. Listen in.
If this tranche does not arrive, Ukraine's drone production will be reduced significantly. For comparison, if today we, in terms of cheap drones that we use on the battlefield, have an approximately competitive number of such drones with Russia, then it will be much lower.
The European Central Bank has kept interest rates unchanged at 2%, taking a more optimistic view of the Eurozone economy despite global trade pressures. The central bank raised several of its growth and inflation projections for the bloc. Take a look.
The European Central Bank kept its policy rates steady at 2% on Thursday. It took a more positive view on a Eurozone economy that has stood up well to global trade shocks. The central bank raised several of its growth and inflation projections for the bloc. The more positive outlook could make further rate cuts in the near term less likely. Recent growth figures for the Eurozone have beaten ECB expectations. It's due to exporters dealing with US tariffs more effectively than thought, and because domestic spending has balanced weak manufacturing. Inflation has stayed around the ECB's 2% target and is expected to stay there looking ahead. The more upbeat data has already led investors to believe the ECB's easing cycle is near complete. The bank had previously halved its policy rate from 4% to 2% in the year to last June. But the ECB formally kept its options open on Thursday. It repeated it would set borrowing costs meeting by meeting depending on incoming data. ECB President Christine Lagarde.
There was a unanimous decision that was taken today concerning the rates that we decided to hold. But there was also a unanimous view that all optionalities should remain on the table.
Another big announcement came from Britain's central bank on Thursday. The Bank of England cut interest rates after a close vote by policymakers. They agreed to lower the rate for the fourth time this year from 4 to 3.75%. The decision comes after a big inflation drop in data this week and a new forecast the economy is stagnating.
And with that, let's slip into another short break. But remember, news continues right here on News9 after the break. Thanks for watching.
यही मौका है बिजनेस को बढ़ाने का, पर पैसा।
अपनी सुपर पावर यूज करने का टाइम आ गया है।
आप टेंशन मत लीजिए, IIFL फाइनेंस से झटपट गोल्ड लोन लीजिए और बिजनेस आगे बढ़ाइए।
आपके जैसे सुपर हीरोज ऐसी छोटी मोटी प्रॉब्लम से थोड़ी ना रुकते हैं, इसीलिए लाइफ जब भी आगे बढ़ने का मौका दे तो अपनी सुपर पावर, अपना गोल्ड यूज करिए और IIFL फाइनेंस से गोल्ड लोन लीजिए।
IIFL फाइनेंस करता है सीधी बात।
Welcome to a cheese spread made with pure milk. For chilly evenings. For peppery sundowners. For garlic afternoons. For tikka picnics. Welcome to Amul cheese spread. Spread the richness.
Okay, 2026, take notes. Manifesting. More bubbles, less troubles. For my little Miss Sunshine, tickles and giggles. Also want to be a biker chick this time. Allah, massive. And dear 2026, only love for my people and myself. To manifest my best life, nature's cosmic energy. Now mine, natural diamond intention pendants.
सामने नया सुपरमार्केट खुलने वाला है, क्या करूं कि